Hello, on this Marcelo Stokes with your update today. Here's the National Hurricane Center's map right now. You can see they're watching a couple of areas right now around the southwestern Caribbean and parts of pretty much the western parts of the Gulf of Mexico. Giving the area around the Gulf of Mexico a 0% chance of developing today, and it's giving this area right here a 20% chance of developing. The chances are going up as environmental conditions are beginning to look more favorable for tropical development. Here it is right here around the satellite imagery right here. You can see we have a ton of wind shear, a lot of dry air trying to move into the system around the Gulf of Mexico. So it's pretty much being choked to death. The chances are diminishing significantly as it looks right now, but there is a still mid-level low, a mid-level swirl around that area. That's actually trying to develop maybe some thunderstorms around it, so that area actually does bear some watching. There is an area of thunderstorms right here around the Caribbean, around the Dominican Republic, Hispaniola, and Jamaica, which bears watching. There is an area of low pressure off to the south, just northeast of the Panama and Costa Rica area. That is our area we're watching, trying to develop some thunderstorms around it, but environmental conditions right now are not favorable and conducive right now for any tropical development. That could change in the next few days, as it appears. The shear will actually decrease as high pressure aloft begins to set in. The shear will decrease. The environmental conditions will become more favorable around this area as the broader low pressure begins to tighten up, and we could possibly have a depression in the next few days. Here's the area, here's the complex of thunderstorms over here right now over parts of the Gulf of Mexico. Moving off to the east, here's the area of low pressures right around this area. I'm going to draw that on so you guys can see. If you can't see it, here's the area of low pressures right around here. Shear is pretty much blowing the thunderstorm complex off to the east, so there's pretty much no chance of this developing. Let me go back to see that map I was showing you. I want to show you a couple of interesting points about it, or what we think this storm's going to do. As it looks for the past model runs, they've been consistent on possibly, looks like there's going to be a blockage around this area. So as this continues to move off to the northwest, very slowly off to the northwest, it appears it's going to begin to experience some of that ridging and get pushed off to the northeast. As it looks right now, the track is a little still uncertain of where exactly it's going to take that northwest turn. If it takes this track right around here, less rain for Florida, but pouring heavy rainfall for the Dominican Republic and Haiti and Cuba. Takes this western track, we could have a little bit more rainfall for the drought-stricken Florida, which actually does need it. But unfortunately, it looks like it's going to take that eastern track of where we could have tremendous rainfall for parts of Haiti. Some areas could get up to a half a foot of rain, which actually does not need it because, once again, Haiti is majority deforested. That means missing a lot of trees right now. It barely has any trees, just has mountains and hills. So if we get rain, it's going to cause life-threatening flash floods and mudslides across that area. So a situation you do not want to hear about. Obviously, they're still suffering from that earthquake. Many living in tents, and it's not going to help them at all. So we're going to have to keep them in our prayers as these storms move in. Here's a look at the shear right now. You can see the shear is actually pretty favorable around this area right here. Excuse me, let me draw that circle around it. Right around here, around the area of low pressure we were watching earlier. The shear looks like it's trying to decrease around that area, and there also is a lack of shear for parts of this area. Both these areas are where we're watching area for development. But remember, the shear does not immediately account that we're not going to have a tropical system develop. Oh no, it depends on a lot of factors: environmental conditions, dry air, shear, water temperatures have to be around 80 degrees. Together, but once again, there still is some dry air around it. That's prohibiting this storm in the Gulf of Mexico from developing. Same thing with this storm around the Caribbean. You can see right now there is an extreme amount of wind shear, a good amount of wind shear over parts of the Bahamas, where you can see its shear is well over 40 to 50 knots as possible. It's right over 20 knots and above over parts of the Caribbean. So there's a lot of wind shear, but the forecast is for the shear to decrease over the next few days, and we actually could have our next system as the shear decreases and environmental conditions become more favorable. Here is the Gulf of Mexico. Here's the sea surface temperatures right now. Pretty interesting points. You see the East Pacific right now is actually pretty cooling down. Looks like it's actually cooling down. These blues are actually water that are actually cooler than normal. As neutral hurricane stage are in its beginning, we're actually starting to see some cooler waters moving to this area. So this actually is going to be pretty interesting to see whether this affects the hurricane season, which it actually is going to. The National Hurricane Center is calling for a pretty much average to just below average for that area. So cooler waters, a little bit more wind shear could cause hurricane season to be decreased for the Eastern Pacific. Pretty much for the Atlantic's a little bit different, a little bit of an average to a gently above average, as it looks like more of a neutral season is going to be setting in. So we actually could have a couple of strong storms possibly moving to the area. So that's going to be something to watch as we head to the next few days. We're going to keep an eye on this and keep you updated. You can see there's very warm waters over parts of the Caribbean, very warm waters over parts of the Gulf of Mexico, and there also is very warm waters over parts of the Atlantic and the southeast coast. So these conditions are setting right for possible tropical development over the next few days. Stay tuned. We'll continue to keep you updated on this latest tropical development.